Has the United States ever tolerated more harassment, more theft, more spying, and more blatant hostility from any nation than we are tolerating right now from China? It's really a rhetorical question because the answer is no. At the height of the Cold War, the Soviet Union, even in its wildest dreams, never got away with the hostilities that China now gets away with on a daily basis. I want you to know, the last thing we need is a war. And a war with China would mean world war. It would not be good for anyone. But I think China even knows that at this point. But China's fingers are in everybody's pie. And it is not good. Yesterday, a report came out from the U.S. Space Force General, said American satellites are attacked every day by China with lasers, radio frequency jammers, and cyber attacks. Russia also participates in this. He said the tactics approach acts of war. That's all, just acts of war. But our Congress and our president, the Democrats, obsess over building back better, the right to kill babies, and global warming. That's all they're focused on. This is China poking, jabbing, shivving you under the table while smiling for the cameras and getting ready to welcome the world to Beijing for the Winter Olympics in just 2 months. Need I remind you that we boycotted the 1980 Summer Olympics in Moscow in protest of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan? Boy, does that seem quaint now. We have known what China is building and doing and their real intent towards the West for way too long. And we've all just buried our head because we don't want a war with China. We all said, no, you can't do trade barriers because that would mean war. That would just throw everything out of line. Well, it didn't seem to do that with Donald Trump, did it? Instead, we elected a president who we now know is literally taking money from the Chinese Communist Party. It's being funneled through his son. He's made millions of dollars from the communists. And we're not really saying anything, are we? We've known for years about the concentration camps, yet it's business as usual. John Kerry just told us, well, we can't do anything about the concentration camp because we really need them on global warming. They're not going to do anything on global warming. They are building one coal-fired power plant every single week. They're not going to do it. And really, global warming with China, that's a bigger deal than the erasing of an entire group of people. That's more important than genocide. Wow, is this our priorities, America? Because if they are, I begin to wonder if I want to be a part of this. There's no serious consideration of even boycotting the Beijing Olympics. We are on the wrong side of history. This week, leaked documents from China were published that directly link the state's brutal policies towards Uyghurs with top Chinese Communist Party leadership, including President Xi. China has always denied any wrongdoing against the Uyghurs. But now we have documents that show official state policies of A, forced internment, B, mass sterilization, C, re-education programs, D, slave labor. And all of this was done with the top party officials, including President Xi. He is quoted in the documents as telling officials to respond to Uyghur separatists with, quote, absolutely no mercy, end quote. Apparently, his command has been obeyed. Earlier this year, former Uighur detainees detailed how they were systematically raped, sexually abused, tortured, sterilized, and then thrown into the re-education camps. By the way, they can free themselves by working as slave labor and report back to the camp every night. Speaking out about abuse in China gets you canceled. I mean, in a more literal sense, executed. If you're not executed, you're stashed away in some camp or an undisclosed location. Now, that is what's happened just this week to Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai. Don't know if you've been following this, but early last month, she dared accuse a senior Chinese government official of sexual assault. And now she's been disappeared. Now, let me ask you, all those on the left that say, me too, enough of this. What is your response to an administration that won't even stand with this woman who is accusing a high party official of sexual assault, and then she just disappears? The International Olympic Committee claims to have 2 video calls with Peng, the second one earlier this week. But even if the calls took place, it's only because the Chinese government is trying to save face with the Olympics starting soon. There's no proof of Peng's safety or her whereabouts. Even with so much proof with China, I mean, never again is now. Even with the proof of the human rights abuse, American government and business continues to turn a blind eye, and groups like Google and Facebook and Microsoft are doing all they can to partner with China. Apple partners with China. Apple makes some of their products in the Uighur territory with Uighur slaves. Billionaire Ray Dalio. He runs the world's largest hedge fund. He's a longtime investor in China. I want you to listen to him trip over himself this week when he was asked on CNBC about China's human rights problems.
Clearly, there's human rights issues. There's questions right now about this Chinese tennis player, Peng Shuai. There have been questions about Jack Ma. How do you think about that piece of it when it relates to investing there?
Well, I can't be an expert in those types of things. What I basically do, and for 50 years I invest all over the world. I look to whatever the rules are. If the government has a policy that I should do a certain thing and so on, but I can't be an expert in all of those particular dynamics of that. I really have no idea.
Stop. I mean, that is our go-to excuse. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an expert in that. I have no idea. We know genocide is happening in China on a massive scale. We know China is much more powerful than the Third Reich ever was. We know China is an enemy of ours. We know China is attacking us on a daily basis. We know our administration is in bed with China financially, illegally. As long as the money is flowing, we're fine, I guess. History is littered with tyrants and oppressive regimes that the world failed to confront before the mass atrocities occurred. This is the information age. We've known about China for years. But what difference does this information make if no one does anything about it? And I'm not talking about going to war. I'm talking about saying we can't do business with you anymore. All of this information that we have. Well, now you have to make a choice. But this information not only could save the people in China, this information, if we don't act on it, will doom our souls. You can't know about this and then go buy an Apple product. I'm sitting here with an Apple product. It's hard. Let me give you one more thing about China. Quickly. Consumers Research. This has been around forever. They're a nonprofit. They share consumer information, so you know. They just shared a letter that they have sent to 10 governors. The 10 governors of Washington, Florida, New York, Nevada, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Montana, Nebraska, and West Virginia. 10 states with the top 10 pension fund investments with Blackrock. What is Blackrock doing? BlackRock is funneling billions in U.S. dollars to China, and they're doing them through your pension fund. They are investing in China. Well, I don't know what China is doing. I can't be an expert on this. Believe me, BlackRock is. And BlackRock has our administration by the throat. They are the economic advisors for the president, the vice president, and the Treasury. Do you want your money going to fund China? These are going to offshore accounts. BlackRock is saying, hey, we only invest in what we invest in. And we're just doing what's right for the customers. You know what? That's exactly what one of my financial advisors said to me the other day when he said, you've got to invest in BlackRock. If you invest in BlackRock, the money is just off the charts. And I said, do you know what they're doing? Do you know that they're buying houses from the American people? They're coming in with $75,000, $100,000 more than the asking price so they can own all of it and we're all renters? No. He said, you're not going to make any money if you're going to have these kind of standards. And I said, then I don't make any money. This is a hard decision, but they are only going to get harder. How much is your soul worth? How much is freedom worth? What is the cost of stopping genocide? What are you willing to pay? Oh, better yet, what are you willing to not make? What are you willing to not have as an increase? Oh, I made 14% on my dollar because I invested in what? Concentration camps? My soul's worth more than 14%.